Craft assembly facility. This is where we build stuff. And JPL is pretty humongous, as I talked about before. We have 2 rooms about this size. The other one's actually a little bigger. But, you know, we build a lot of parts here at JPL. We have to buy a lot of parts from other companies and contractors. So, but eventually you need some place where you can put the whole thing together. So that's why we have these giant rooms. There are also special kinds of rooms. These are what we call clean rooms. And the idea in a clean room is that you're filtering out the dust that's in the air, trying to clean the air a bit. And that's important for a couple reasons. I mean, you guys know, spacecraft, it's not like a car. This stuff goes bad in space, you cannot go fix it. So you really need to make sure everything's gonna work, you know, from the very beginning. So clean rooms help that happen. So, you know, a lot of our robots have, you know, they're just giant computers, essentially, putting all this stuff together. So there's a lot of electrical parts you gotta connect to make sure those connections are nice and clean. A lot of our robots have parts that move, so you don't wanna get dirt into those parts that might mess up the way they move. And then, of course, when you think about the new rover, we haven't talked much about Curiosity yet, but we will more later. But that rover, Curiosity, is like a chemist on the surface of Mars. That rover can actually find the ingredients that make up life, which is pretty cool. But then you have to consider the problem. When you're building that in a room with people, what is some of the dust in the room going to be made of? Anybody?
Skin.
Skin, exactly right. You ever been at home, you see that beam of light coming through the window and all that stuff's floating in the beam of light? Yeah, some of that stuff is dead you.
Dead us. Thank you.
You gotta worry about that stuff when you're building a spacecraft that can find it. Because the last thing you want to do is get that on the rover, take it to Mars, maybe some of that falls on the ground there, and you stick your robotic arm down there, and you're like, oh, check it out, we found life on Mars. Only a minute later, you're like, oh, wait a minute, no, that's Fred from the clean room. Right? And then the thing is, like I said earlier, you can't go fix it. There's nothing you can do. So now you probably can't trust that tool anymore. And Curiosity took like 8 years to build. So, you know, no short period of time to do that. So that's a huge loss if something like that happens.
A lot of Freds.
Oh, right, yeah. So clean rooms are extraordinarily important. But that being said, some are cleaner than others. Like right now, this room is not nearly as clean as it was when we were building Curiosity in here. This room right now is what we call a class 10,000 clean room. Simple to understand what that means. All you need to remember or know in your head is how big a cubic foot is. Do you guys know how big a cubic foot is?
No idea.
Think about that. So it's a cube, that's a foot on every side. Right? Simple, right? Cubic foot. Perfect. Bam, there it is. So here's the deal then. If you had a cubic foot chunk of air from inside the room, you're not allowed to have any more than 10,000 pieces of dust in that box. That's what a class 10,000 clean room means. But then you have to go, okay, well, compared to what? Right? Like, is this clean? What's it? If you're telling me it's a clean room, what's it like outside? Okay. They tell us that mountain fresh air, let's say Big Bear, Mountain High, places like that, in that same box, you're going to have on the average of about 500,000 pieces of dust. So way dirtier than here. But it gets way worse. Think about like downtown Los Angeles on a nice stinky hot August day, right? In that same box, they've measured in the low millions. Right? So that's a lot more dirty than you're ever going to see in a room like this. When you work in a room like this in a class 10,000, what the people wear usually is like a hairnet, something to cover their hair, because hair is always a problem. Hair can actually mess up your electronics really badly. So you keep your hair covered all the time. They usually wear special little coverings over their shoes, or some of these people actually have special shoes they just leave in the clean room, and they change in and out. And then they can wear a long lab coat and gloves, and that's it. That works. You can wear your jeans in a class 10,000 room most of the time. But when we were building Curiosity, the rooms had to get down to a class 1,000. That's really clean. This clean room can actually do it by itself. The other giant clean room we have, which is empty right now, that's why we're not going there. There's nothing to see. It's a longer room, but it's not as cool looking as this. But that room actually can't get to a 1,000 by itself, so they actually have to wheel in a bunch of more portable air cleaners to help. But then the suit changes a little bit. When they work in a class 1,000 room, we put them in something called a bunny suit, which is like a giant adult onesie. They're kind of hilarious. And they cover everything. There's a hood that snaps over your head. The only thing showing is your face. And then you have to wear a mask over your mouth and nose, of course.
Wow.
And then there were days we came up there when they were putting the rover together. Because you guys remember what it looked like, that big white box with wheels, right? Well, inside that box are all these electronics and the computers and stuff. When they were installing all that stuff, they actually had goggles on too a lot of the time to keep any eyebrow or eyelash hair from getting in there. So they're really concerned about all of it. So, and the way this particular room works, the way the air is filtered, is the air actually comes in from the ceiling cleaned. So you see all those kind of rectangular things up there? Those are all air filters. And it comes in from the ceiling, and it comes down, travels from top to bottom, and then it goes through more filters in the floor that you see down below. And it's actually kind of a cool building. We're actually right now we're in a 70-foot cube. So it's a little deceiving to the eye, but it's 70-foot cube, right? 70 foot up all the way around. We're sitting on top of another 70-foot cube. So that's a whole volume of clean air below the floor. And if they need to, we can actually exchange the entire volume of air in here in about 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So, in fact, they're about to do a filter change, I think in either later this month or in October. You see all those things on the far right side? Those are all the new filters for the ceiling and the floor, but they can't put them in yet because they said they weigh like 35 pounds a piece. So they want to make sure everything is out of the room.
Wow.
Just in case, all right? So, yeah. So I'll get to what's in here actually in just a second, So when you come in here to work, it's actually kind of fun. There's a locker room in the back where you put your suit on, whatever you're wearing that day. Then you come in through the do not exit door in the back. Now, some of you can probably see there's another door just beyond that door. Can you guys all see that? So what you do is you step into that little closet looking thing from the other side. And when you get in there, you take an air shower, which is like standing in front of 40 hair dryers, and it's hilarious.
Oh, really?
The whole idea is we're blasting you with all this clean air, and you can see there's a grate in the floor there. So what happens is we suck all that air out. The whole idea is to give you like one final dusting off before you're finally allowed in here to work. So it's kind of cool. It's a great room to work. If you've got like asthma or allergies, this is like the best room ever, right? But the problem is you can't bring anything in here. You can't bring any food, you can't bring any water. And everybody, of course, is going to bring their cell phones in nowadays, but there's a whole kit they give you to wipe your cell phone down before you can even come in with that. So there's a whole bunch of preparation. It takes a good 10 minutes just to get ready to come in here. So it's one of those deals where, when you come in, you want to hang out for a little while. If you have to come in 10 minutes later, you have to go to the bathroom. So that's kind of a nightmare.
Do a potty break first.
Now, when the spacecraft parts, the big stuff, come and go, they come in and out through this giant door on the right. You guys see that humongous door? Now that door though, I don't know if we should have pointed it out, but did you guys see that big giant rolling garage door we passed by on this back wall? So that opens up, so you can imagine that kind of like a long hallway, like a really long tall hallway. This door on the right here opens into the side of the hallway, okay? And then it's also a clean room. It's what we call an airlock. And the whole idea behind that room is to serve as this space in between here and the outside. We never want to open both doors at the same time, because then you would have like a huge window to the dirty air from outside that could let that dirty air in here. So we don't want that to happen. So that serves as this little spot where, let's say we were moving a piece out, you would open that door first, push the piece out there, close the big door, and then you can open the outside rolling door to get it outside. That makes sense? So it's a whole attempt to try and keep the air in here much cleaner. So that's kind of how that works. Now, as far as what's going on in here, let me talk about the two pieces that are downstairs. Start on the right-hand side. That is the heat shield that will take the next rover to Mars. So I don't know if you guys know this yet, but we're starting work on a project called Mars 2020. We don't have a name for the rover yet, but it's going to be essentially a Curiosity twin. So the video you saw with the rover landing on Mars with a rocket pack, it's going to be that whole thing all over again with brand new science experiments, 7 new science experiments. That particular heat shield there was actually the spare part. When we were building Curiosity, we bought 2 of them. And it was important that we did because this is the biggest capsule NASA has ever flown. Bigger than Apollo, the diameter of this thing. Bigger than the thing we sent the guys to the moon on. So we wanted to make sure that we bought 2 at the time so that in case we broke one during testing, we would have a backup ready to go that wouldn't put us behind schedule. So thankfully the first one survived all the testing, and it was the one that ended up taking the new rover Curiosity to Mars. So we had this spare part sitting around. Well, just a year and a half or 2 years ago, we found out we got this project for the next rover in 2020. So we were like, 2 thumbs up, we already have a heat shield. So, and we don't need to do any testing with it because it's exactly the same as the other one. We know exactly what it can do and what it can't do. So that's really just going to sit around and hang out until it has to, be launched. So it'll get launched in Mars in 2020. And then arrival at Mars will be sometime in 2021. I think middle of that year sometime. I forget the months, but so that's what that is there. Yes, dear.
About the when they built the Mars rover, why did they have to wear the bunny suit things?
because we didn't want to get dead skin on the rover, because remember that rover can actually find the ingredients for life. So if you put the dead skin on it, it might mistake that for Mars life. We don't want that to happen. That'd be a bad day.
Like washing your hands
right?
while cooking.
So the next thing in the room is this big giant, coconut cream pie here on the left. And what that is, it's not actually a spacecraft. In fact, you can see on the front it says TV3. You guys see that? Mm-hmm. TV stands for test vehicle. So there have already been 1 and 2, that's number 3. And it's a project called the Low Density Supersonic Decelerator, LDSD. Remember those letters because there's lots of great video on our website about this test. The idea behind this whole thing is to create 2 new technologies that will allow us to land heavier stuff on Mars. So the new rover, Curiosity, 2,000 pounds, is the heaviest thing ever landed on Mars. And that was 1 ton. If we ever want to do humans to Mars, you're looking at 20, 30, 40 ton payloads. And then before that, probably bigger robots to figure out what how we're going to safely get the humans there. So there's 2 things they're come up with. One is that they're both drag creating technologies. What that means is trying to help us slow down more effectively when we get to Mars. So one of them is this big giant airbag system, if you will, that blows up around the existing capsule to increase its diameter and thus help it slow down as it gets to when it arrives in the atmosphere on Mars. The second is a giant parachute. So we've done some testing with this already. If you guys want to slide over here so you can see some of this video that's running on the screen here. Slide on over. So this is some of the video. This is actually brand new. They just put this set of video stuff in here the other day. But what we did is we can do some testing here on Earth with rocket sleds and stuff like this. Works pretty well. But what you eventually want to do, and thankfully we can do here on Earth, is take this up into the sky. Because here's the deal. If you take this thing up to about 190,000 feet on Earth, then the air is about the same thickness as it is on Mars. So this obviously doesn't start there yet. But we did a bunch of these different tests. So this is one where we were testing the parachute. This parachute, by the way, is twice as big as the parachute we landed Curiosity on Mars with. So the Curiosity parachute was about 50 feet in diameter. This is about 100 feet in diameter. And they come out at crazy speeds. So when we do these rocket sled tests, you think the rockets are going really, really fast. They get us up to maybe 300 miles an hour or so, which is really fast, not nearly as fast as Mars fast. But the air here down this low is really, really thick. So you'd think it would sort of be equivalent. So this one shows you one of the helicopter tests we did. This was pretty cool. So I think they actually have, on this particular set of video, I think they actually show you one of the high altitude pictures. On one of the shots we saw, you could see the balloon way up there, huge round, and then this thing was just one little fuzzy pixel. It was great.
Yeah, is that our guy right here?
Well, that's not this one, no, because they worked
the same,
it's the same exact thing,
okay.
though, yeah. So let's see what this shows you here. Okay, so here we will have dropped, now we're spinning. These rocket motors, okay, this is like all high speed.
So this camera's on it?
Former ejection seat motors.
How
we
fun.
tried to do this on the cheap, anything we could, and these cameras, these are all GoPros. Because you can beat the snot out of those things and they survive. So we didn't want to reinvent cameras. We were just like, let's get the GoPros. We knew they could take it.
Nice.
So they had to do some modifications to them. We're actually working with GoPro to help modify them for space flight.
Sweet.
So they might put a camera on the new rover. They're talking about putting a camera on in 2020. So then we de-spin it, and then there's the airbag inflation, and that was perfect. Perfect. So then the next step you'll see here is, I believe, like I said, this is kind of high speed, but then it'll show you the parachute. So that's a small thing that helps pull the parachute out. So it's just a little drag device called a balloon. It's the marriage of the word balloon and parachute. It inflates like a giant acorn, and then look what happened to the parachute. And see, we did this exact same test a year ago, and the same thing happened. So this parachute here, this is like from June 3rd, so just a little over a month ago. So this was a redesigned parachute. The air is so thick, you can land gently on the ground with a parachute, you can land gently in the ocean with a parachute.
But on Mars,
the air is so thin, boom, you're going to hit the ground at 200 miles an hour. So you always need to come up with other ways to help slow down. So that's why we have to also use rocket motors, airbags to bounce. Yeah?
We need the 3D glasses.
Test for number 3 downstairs next summer. They're going to do it again. And then it wasn't that good quality, but we could see, you know, that at high speed as fast as it's going. From our point of view, watching it here, the parachute just looked like it came out and exploded.
You can
we didn't think it opened at all. Then you get back the high definition footage once they recovered it. I guess from most of the GoPros survived again. Awesome. But,
crazy.
Yeah, crazy, right? Because this time they said it hit the ocean so hard. Last summer when we did it, they pulled the thing out of the water. Here's a picture of it actually. So it looked fine. I mean, the front was dented up a bit, but the parachute, even though it exploded, it stayed together enough, I guess, that we slowed down and hit the ground, you know, okay, hit the ocean, okay. This time, this one here, when we hit the ocean this past year, a couple months ago, that whole front of the thing was cracked open. They said when they were craning the capsule out of the ocean onto the boat, the rocket motor kind of fell out of the front. So it was still hanging on there with the plumbing and tubing and cabling and all that stuff, but the whole front of the thing was cracked wide open and it fell right through. So this is great, some of this high-speed footage, and eventually we want to make it way bigger. This is the humongous one we want to test someday.
Wow.
And this would be used to land like 10, 20 tons. So, and I got a picture here that'll show you the two different versions. It's just a computer drawing of it.
So was the first parachute tested in this sort of fashion?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, sorry, I looked right into that.
I know.
Sorry. So just so you guys can see, what we've tested as far as the inflatable airbag thing goes is this little guy, 6 meters. We want to eventually make it a big giant 8-meter device, and that's the one you're watching here on the video now.
I see, I see.
So the rocket test was cool. And we just used car airbag.
Connector, see it's the white triangle?
I am lost.
Okay.
Oh, down there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
There's a banana stick, and that's a real banana. But of course, bananas can be big and small, right?
Yeah,
That looks like a large banana.
Yeah. You see it here?
We're kind of up in here a little bit.